I understand you have worked as an investment banker and you were the former managing director at Deutsche Bank. What made you want to make a huge jump from investment banking to music, considering how music is a risky and unstable line to get into?
It definitely is unstable, risky, and all those things. I think, music is an art form, and art forms, I think, have their own persuasion, their own sense of persuasion when they kind of start consuming you. They start taking over some of your more rational senses to some extent, and you start weighing risk and reward a little differently. So, because it's such a big part, and I was going to say a loud voice, as we heard just now, it's such a loud voice in your head that it's hard to ignore it. Even though the rational faculties that you have, you say, okay, this is your risk, these are the kind of challenges you have. So I would say that it wasn't though having said that, I did consider this very carefully. I had to talk to my wife, I had to talk to my mother. My father had already passed away, but I talked to my sister, my brother, and everyone close to me, even the closest friends I had, to really get a sense that am I making the right choice? And so I think it was a considered decision, which has financial implications, because as you alluded to, one of the biggest risks is that you don't make that much money as a musician, right? And the money that one makes as an investment banker, you can be an average investment banker and make very good money. And you can be an excellent musician and still make mostly, like 50% of that money, maybe less, even if you're an excellent musician. And you could be just the top 0.01% of musicians are the people that we've heard about, like Coldplay, or the kind of bands that one listens to on popular media. So the risk reward ratio was not very good, but I did it because I was consumed by that, A, and B, I had a sense that I could afford in some ways to do it because my wife was working. It really helps to have financial stability if you're making a very risky decision, which is what I did.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the next question. What challenges did you face at the start of your music career, and how long did it take for you to get your first break?
So the challenges are many. So in a normal career, you have a boss, you have a job, you have a paycheck, you get up and you have a structure to your life. You have expectations which are told to you. You said, this is your job. You have to deliver this to me by tomorrow morning or by next Wednesday or whatever it is, right? And you do those jobs, and after that finishes, usually in the kind of job that I had, you have other jobs coming in, and you've got to keep balancing and working really late at night sometimes to try and keep everything moving, right? So those are the challenges of, let's say, the profession that I was in. What I went in towards, the challenges there, were that no one is calling you. You have to decide what your own priorities are. You have to decide whether you want to write a song, what the song should be about, how it should be marketed, how it should be packaged, how should you be looking, where should you be standing, what photograph to take, what video to take, what sound to come up with, who's going to produce your music, who's going to back your music. So just think about the challenge. What time you wake up in the morning, no one cares, right? Only you care at the end of the day, because you don't have someone saying, where are you, Dhruv? You've got to make those decisions for yourself. So you're an entrepreneur, right? It's very different to be an entrepreneur than to be working as an employee in a company. So the first challenge I would say is you are an entrepreneur. The second challenge is, I would say, about being an artist. And how does one become an artist, or how does one feel like an artist, is by expressing what you genuinely feel, not what people necessarily want to hear, though that's also parts of being an artist, that you cater to the audience also. But at the end of the day, the best artists are those that are singing and creating from here, from your own vision, from your own heart. So it's about letting yourself go, I would say, is the second challenge, to find what's in your heart, Shrishti, really. So the first challenge I would say is the lack of structure. And the second one I would say is being able to really connect with yourself, find that honesty, how you can best package that so that it can connect with people around you, whether it's in any art form. So those I would say are the two, and there are many more, including financial aspects, that you should be getting ready for the fact that you don't absolutely get a monthly paycheck. You get a paycheck which goes like this and then goes down, then goes up and then goes down. And you're waiting for those kind of paydays, whether you have a gig, that's when you get paid. When people are downloading a lot of your songs on Spotify, perhaps you get paid. Or if Amazon Music or Amazon or Netflix, TV shows, take your song, then they pay you large amounts of money so they can use your song for that. So these are the ways you can make money as an artist, but they're lumpy is the way I would call it. Does that answer your question, Shrishti, about some of the challenges?
Yes, sir.
When did you first realize you need to leave your lucrative career and take music as a full-time career? And what is one piece of advice that you would give budding musicians about pursuing their musical aspirations?
I grew up in India thinking and dreaming of being a musician. Let me start with that, right? I never thought I would actually be a full-time musician, right? Because I didn't ever see that was a practical choice for me to make, right? Because my parents had, just like you guys, parents are saving money to send you to good schools, and you feel like you have a responsibility in some ways, or at least I certainly did at that time. And that was also a very different generation, right? To be clear, right? So people had sacrificed a lot. So I'd always wanted to be a musician. I was never, I think, gutsy enough, but also possessed by the music enough to make that jump. So to answer your question, the Ishita, I think it was, the answer is that in 2013, I wrote my first song. And it was then that I knew that something big and massive is happening inside me. And I didn't actually realize that I could write music. That means write lyrics, compose a song, create an entire song structure, and being able to sing it. And I didn't realize I could do it at a level where I felt, my icons were. I always thought, if John Lennon can write a song, or James Taylor or Coldplay or Imagine Dragons, they can write these kinds of songs, but not me, right? I can just sing the songs. And when I first realized I could write and compose and create music, I was like, why not? Why would I not do that, right? Because then that's, so that's the first question. But then the thing is, can I do it? How strong is that voice? Coming back to that earlier answer, the voice was so strong in my head, it just possessed me. So it was in 2013. It took me 3 months to make that decision to go from the lucrative investment banking career, so to speak, and have these discussions with my wife, and do all the soul searching as to who I really am, what I want to do. And that's when I kind of made that decision. So budding musicians, and to everyone, I would say, is treat your life with honesty and integrity. Yourself. Give yourself the seriousness. As a young person, you hear many things in your head. You feel you're going to be doing this, feel you're going to be doing that. It's amazing. Stick with those ideas, and those instincts are often very, very true to you. But sometimes at the age of 16, 17, 18, they're not fully formed. So you've got to also be aware of the fact that sometimes your instincts are sharp and ready and to be acted on. Sometimes it's a voice you've got to listen to, and it might take a little more sharpening and clarity and time for it to really be clarified that this is what I want to do. And that's okay. You don't have, currently the expectations of your generation, I think, are very high that, beta, what do you want to do? And the child is 15 or 16 or even 20. And the answer is not that simple, right? It takes time sometimes. So I think I would say the answer to your question is, like I would say to a musician and to non-musicians, is try and be honest to the voices that you're hearing, and try and be as sensible as you can to try and listen to, is this a passing phase? And sometimes even a passing phase is good enough to act on. It's okay. You make mistakes, and we'll come back to that about making mistakes, which is a beautiful thing in life. This is your opportunity to kind of try something, not succeed, and say, okay, maybe that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. So I would say be listening for that voice of integrity within you. That's the best thing best piece of advice I would give.
Does one need proper training to have a career in music? Also, do you feel that in order to pursue music, one needs to learn, study, and understand old music and music history?
I think you must, in some ways, I would really advise that whatever you do, music, art, banking, architecture, everything requires a technical expertise of some kind. There's no question about it, right? And you might think I'm being inconsistent when I complete my answer because I'm not trained in the formal sense for being a musician. But I have a very good ear, and I was listening for a number of years, making notes literally, writing poems, literally. So listening to every song, I was like an encyclopedia amongst, all my social circles about music, about kind of intonation about songs, about feelings about songs, who sung this song, who's the songwriter, who's the producer, what is R.D. Burman done in India, what is Kishore Kumar sung. So I was encyclopedic. So in my own way, and I was singing a lot. So in my own way, I was a student, though I wouldn't say that I had any technical qualification which was on a piece of paper, right? So I would make a distinction between those two things. Some jobs require technical qualifications absolutely on a piece of paper as a certification, right? If you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, even a banker, you need certain degrees, right? In music, you don't need those degrees, right? And I didn't have those degrees, which allowed me access to enter this profession relatively late in my life. So that's the good thing. But I think I entered it as a student for many years of listening keenly, singing, performing, etc., etc. So, and would it have helped me more if I had a technical expertise? Not exactly for what I do, because what I do is I create music, songs, composition. So I think, a lot of that is original flow, and it comes from original inspiration and things like that. So I don't think really that part would have required it. However, if I want to be a music producer, then I spend a lot of time on the computer listening to kind of song styles and working out, it's like as much as being an accountant sits on an Excel worksheet and has to work with numbers. You need computer programming skills almost to be able to listen to and manipulate sounds. So there are different aspects of what you might want to do should you want to be a musician. You could be just a singer. In that case, I would say train your voice. If you want to be a guitar player, train your guitar playing, right? So there's a technical aspect to each of these things. Some of them come with a piece of paper and some don't.
With the rising shift of the live music industry online, how do you think this affects artists in general, if at all? Do you think that this change was long awaited and more reforms are to be made, or believe in reverting back once the situation settles?
Wow, that's a very good question. Because the jury is still out as to how that's going to evolve and where that's going. My personal view is that there are two facets to this. One is that there's a certain membership of the audience globally, and which I think appreciates an online live performance. Firstly, online live performance, let me just clarify, is hard to do, right? I can't be doing it sitting here and having you in Dubai play the guitar and someone else in London play the drums, right? Genuinely live. It just does. It's not happened ever, right? So any videos you see about that, you should know that that's just made up, right? They've actually recorded the song separately, track by track. Then they've created a music video separately to make it look like they're all playing it at the same time, edited it and packaged it, right? So let's just start with that. So if I need to play and perform live, which I do with my band, then they need to be in the same space as me. So they need to be either in this room, or we've done it from a studio in Singapore. It was a big success, and we had lots of people on listening and enjoying the music. But it's not the same thing as having the audience in front of you, right? So first is from my perspective, it's as an artist, speaking on behalf of an artist, I would say it's very different. It's fun, but it's very different, right? You don't have that audience participation. From the audience's perspective, which is perhaps even more important, right? It's about their entertainment. They're the ones who are paying money or not, right? And from their perspective, I would say there are two answers, which is where I started. One is there's certain types of people who would prefer to sit at home and listen to the music online because it's a much easier experience than going to some big stadium and spending 1 hour in line and going and watching a show rather than just sitting at home and watching it at home with a glass of whatever beverage you might want to consume, right? So that's one. But I think live music in person cannot be beaten, so it has to come back. So right now, I think we're slightly forced into live performances online. After the crisis, I think we will continue to see some live performances online for a certain segment of audience, which is just happier to stay at home and watch their favorite star who's living in Las Vegas or anywhere else or in Singapore, right? So I do have a global audience, so I think it will work. But there's the real live thing is going to be where the bigger money is, I think, and it's always going to be a special experience.